And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth. And this week we're doing something a little different.
A little different.
A little different.
What are we doing?
So it is our 3rd anniversary, which is absolutely crazy. We started
3 years.
I know. We started this sucker in, 2019?
2019.
And we have podcasted through a pandemic and moving and me getting engaged and getting cats and all these crazy life changes. And it's really weird to think about the things that have happened in our lives alongside the podcast. And now you're coming to my wedding in a couple of weeks, which I'm going to start crying about now. I didn't think that was going to get me to get emotional, but you're coming to my fucking wedding. You're one of my best friends. Sorry, all of a sudden this has been a speech about how much I love you.
It's the first time we're meeting in person. I'm just it's a lot. Hopefully you still like me. I am very quiet.
I did the same thing. I was I hope Terry likes me. You get to meet the whole family. You get to really meet me.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is just going to be kind of a clip show. We're going to bring up some of the funniest, some of the saddest, some of the moments from listeners, some of the kind of moving portions of the show that we've had over the last 3 years, and cats and spiders and a whole bunch of shit. But kitties. But before we do get to that, titties. Yes, titties and kitties. Make that a hashtag. But before we do get to that, I want to bring us back. Like I say, whenever we talk to a guest, I want to take us back to the beginning. And Mary Beth, I don't think you have heard this since we first recorded. This will be the second time I've heard it because I had to listen to it while I tried to re-edit our first episode. But this was our very first episode. Hello, Internet, and welcome to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each week we will have a special guest that will bring with them a movie that traumatized them as a kid. This week, the special guest is us.
Yay!
It's really wild that we are here, Mary, because
and
for me, from my perspective, this whole thing kind of started on a lark. I was having a tweet conversation, a tweet versation. No, that's silly. That's so fucking cringe. But we were talking about movies that scared us with a bunch of people, and I brought up a movie that we're going to be talking about tonight, and then it just hit me that it'd make kind of an interesting podcast, and I retweeted it, and everyone started coming out of the woodwork, and then you came out. And I get this little tweet that said you've been planning to do this for 2 years?
2 or 3 years, yeah. I had the idea, and I just wanted to interview family members. This is before I was really active on Twitter. And so this was a podcast that I'd kind of started really planning and thinking about, and then just, putting together a podcast by yourself is really hard. It's hard to have the discipline and have someone to motivate you to do it. It's just yourself. So I never got around to doing it. But when I saw you tweet that, I thought, all right, fate, we have to do this.
Yeah, it's like kismet.
I know, exactly. And here we are, recording our first episode.
And here we are, 3 years later. Hopefully better.
I'm going to say yeah. We edit in Audacity now.
Oh my god, those first few episodes. The editing.
But I take comfort in the fact that in every podcast, when I start listening from the beginning, everyone sounds kind of bad unless they're a professional studio, and then they don't. They're annoying. But I feel like last podcast on the left even had shitty audio for a while, so it's just proof that we grew.
Hell
and figured out how to edit audio. I got better microphones.
Seriously. Oh, man. But so also one of the things that we did is that a lot of people came out and was talking about episodes that, or moments that they loved, but it was kind of hard to find a clip. It was just the episode. So we had a few moments off the top that were just some, I think, big moments for us, starting off with recording with Rob Sheridan on my birthday when I was sick.
I know. That was one of the first ones I was we have to talk about that, because I remember you were just so fucking excited that he said he'd be on the podcast, but we all know how much you fucking love Nine Inch Nails. So it was so neat to talk to him, and you got to pick his brain about Nine Inch Nails, which was really cool.
I got to nerd out for so long. It was so great.
That was a really cool moment. Particularly for you. It was really cool for me, but I did not have the same relationship.
No.
And Rob is now a friend on the internet.
Yes, he's a wonderful
person.
So
cool.
I love him.
So cool.
And his wife. They're both great.
And in a similar vein of that, because I mean, this podcast has let us meet some of our heroes, I guess, or people that we really, really respect and love in the industry. And one of the things that also really got me excited, one of the episodes that there's two on here, but I think one of the ones that was really proud was getting Brandon Cronenberg on the podcast. Talk about Possessor. That was one of our first big gets. And it was a shorter episode and a little bit rushed, but at the same time, it was we got to fucking talk to Brandon Cronenberg. And it was just so fucking neat to be able to have a guest like that. And I think it just has given a lot of legitimacy to us as interviewers and as podcast hosts. Because I get some everyone I feel like everyone has a podcast now, and I'm well, at least I want our podcast to feel different and unique, and I want us to stand out. And then we do, and I just get proud of the people we've talked to, and it's just really cool. And that was one of those moments where I was fuck yeah, we're doing this thing.
And then a little bit later, we talked to two filmmakers that inspire me, and I think they inspire you too, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. That felt like kind of a milestone in a way, between that and Brandon, just two big moments that really jumped out at me.
Talking to that, and they brought the episode from X-Files home, which is one of my favorites, and they were the sweetest dudes, and it's I've been watching their stuff since 2014, 2013, and to be able to talk to them while they're going on this crazy upward trajectory with their careers, it was so fucking cool to get to talk to them and get to just pick their brains. They're also really I love it when they're just oh yeah, we can keep recording. Who cares? People don't care about.
Yeah, we were trying to be very conscientious about their time because they were on a press day, and so we were we're ending a bit early. Well, let's just keep talking. And I'm oh, okay, that's awesome.
Just so nice.
It felt great.
And also, just as a fun little exclusive tidbit for the podcast, one of our readings at our wedding is going to be from Spring. So Benson and Moorhead have been kind of a through line through me and Steve's relationship too, because Spring was one of the first movies we watched together. And
that's amazing.
We've watched, so it's kind of cool. And so.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then we got another really cool guest, Lady Dimitrescu herself.
What?
That was wild. Guys, a lot happens when you just shoot your shot in the DMs.
Yeah, seriously.
But it's surprisingly effective in terms of getting people to guest on your podcast. Especially when they're really nice people.
Yes. That was a great moment. She was delightful. She was just delightful.
Absolutely delightful. I love when I meet people who play these, commanding characters, and they're just total, silly dorks when you meet them in person.
She was such a goofball.
It's the best. You play this, fucking giant, sexy vampire lady, and then you're just, a silly lady who just, is a nerd and likes theater. And it just brings my heart so much joy. I interviewed the guy who played Art the Clown, too, and I was oh, you're a normal person. I was full on, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting a nerd. So it's always so cool to get to talk to those people that you have, a certain vibe about, and then you meet them, oh, yeah, you are just a normal person. You're just a human being.
Just a human being.
Yeah. We've had such cool guests.
We have.
Wow.
We wanted to get those out there because, it was hard to just find a moment from those to represent that episode. It felt really cool to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
But now we're going to move into more clips, and we're going to start off with some moments that were provided by lovely listeners out there. Before we do get to clips, we do have a few that are just regular out there. So we have all of last week's little cuts. I don't know if you all have listened to it yet, where everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong.
And it got worse after we stopped recording.
Yeah.
For me, specifically. Tony, I still hate y'all for leaving that sound in. You're welcome.
The sound of squelching. I think we'll save the moment what happened after recording for Little Cuts.
Yeah, so if you want plug for Little Cuts, I will share with you what happened after last week's recording on Little Cuts, guys, and it involves ghosts. So get ready. So get excited
Spooky
for that.
times.
But we have so much going on in this episode that I feel like that would just elongate.
So the other thing that Tony brought up was Mary Beth talking about Ethel Cain, which put her on my radar too.
One, love Ethel Cain forever, but two, love the reaction. Like, my favorite part about getting peeps telling about Ethel Cain, besides having people listen to Ethel Cain, is the people's reactions to when I tell them what it is, and they're like, what?
Uh-huh.
And it's great. And
to answer you, Tony, I loved Ethel Cain. I've listened to it on and off since it was introduced, and I love her album.
Getting eaten by my boyfriend after being in the freezer. Yeehaw! Anyway, yeah, seeing her live was quite a fucking event. Anywho.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine.
And we have to talk about our Scarred for Life drinking game that we need to like make an official graphic for, because I feel like at this point we have enough, and I think and we should one day do a stream where we watch a movie and actually do it. But we always do the drinking game where whenever someone says Hereditary or Terrified, when they, or Raised Catholic, the holy trinity of Scarred for Life, Hereditary, Terrified, and Raised Catholic! That's a good merch idea.
It really is. That is great.
And then we also have our moments of our drinking games where the cats make their presence known, of course, and surprise spiders. Terry's
surprise spiders. My least favorite. But this does lead us into 3 of our first clips. So we're going to start off with When Kitties Attack. And until next time. Meow.
That bitch always has to have the last word.
She had the last laugh.
I love that stupid bitch. Where is she?
Meow.
Oh my god, it was so that I love her. She's such a menace to society.
She is, but I believe this is the first time the doorstopper was heard on the podcast. I believe. I'm not positive, but
I swear to God.
What just happened?
The cat just hit the little door stopper.
I thought she was sleeping.
No, it's the other one.
Oh. Damn cats.
The Lord is testing me.
The Lord is testing me.
The Lord is... oh man, I remember when I got her, and she was not terrible on podcasting, and then she became more of a creature of curiosity and became a menace. And now she's 2.5.
What? I'm pretty sure you just got her, Mary Beth. What are you talking about?
I thought I just got her. Yeah, she's over 2.5 years old.
Jesus, she's grown up with the podcast. That's wild.
Baby.
That's wild.
That's worse than when my friends' kids age. It is, though. It is
really?
Worse.
I can't believe 2.5 years. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Did everyone see I got necklaces of my cats' names, by the way? Okay, just making sure everyone knows that Zucchini and Tiramisu have necklaces, and I wear these. I don't even take them off. Anywho, I'm crazy.
We have also had a number of times when surprise spiders came up, but I did find this moment in episode 88 with Trevor Henderson where we were talking about Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, because I do think that this encompasses everything. Yeah. I will say that I do have a bone to pick with you.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same bone that I've had to pick with a number of guests.
What's that?
And that's where Mary Beth realizes it's that you picked a movie that has surprise fucking spiders in it.
What a cute laugh Trevor has.
Oh, God, I had no idea. I'm sorry.
Fuck that. Okay. Oh.
My huge. Like, okay, I don't know what happened in that scene because the moment the spiders came out, my eyes are covered. And I will admit this as a 40-year-old man that I did not watch the scene because there are fucking tarantulas. But I could hear them, and the noises they were making was absolutely terrifying.
It's a really good thing you covered your eyes, I gotta say.
Yeah, so I was texting Terry, and I was like, how was the tarantula scene for you? He was like, oh, I didn't watch it. You're going to have to tell me what happened. So
Seriously?
Like, that makes a lot of sense because, Terry, are you ready to hear the description? Are you good?
I am, because you know what? I think this is like the second or third time I've seen this movie, and I forget every single time.
Just
Every time.
during the
that there are fucking tarantulas in, because I think I blocked it out of my mind every single
The
time.
scene also comes out of nowhere. Like, there's no context for it.
Yes,
And, like,
fucking surprise tarantulas. It's the same thing as we watched Something Wicked This Way Comes with Cecil Baldwin, and there's all of a sudden tarantulas under the bed, or even a silly kids movie that we watched for Gory Corey that like all of a sudden there's a fucking tarantula. I'm like, no. I'm telling you. Seriously.
Elle, whenever spiders appear, Terry just hears the Kill Bill siren.
Yes. Lights turn red. It's so bizarre. It just happens.
I will say also, I did not get any spider decorations for my wedding because I didn't want to scare you.
Thank you.
I love you so much. Anyway.
It is true friendship. You're right, y'all.
But the next clip we have is an EL recommendation.
Yes, it
which
really
was
is.
A moment that comes up on Twitter, and it was during our chat with Jen Adams about Fright Night, specifically about the sexuality in Fright Night. And here
we go.
Well, something happens for Terry.
What's so weird talking about the scene in the beginning where he bites the girl on the neck and through the window. I had never seen that scene growing up because my parents had a rule: no sex. So anytime there was going to be nudity on the screen or there was some kind of sexual thing, I had to close my eyes.
No titties for Terry.
No titties for Terry, which... I mean, no titties for Terry. Come on, it doesn't really bother me.
I was going to say, really just... Oh my God.
I'm funny.
I have to say that your asides kill me, particularly when I'm editing and I forget, because like I'm like in podcasting brain and sometimes they don't necessarily hit right away, but then I'm editing an episode, I'm like, oh, she funny.
I'm just a smart ass, and whenever I edit, I'm like, God damn, I need to shut the fuck up.
Oh my God.
But I'm also that way all the time, forever. It's not. It's all the time in my life, but it's fun.
I love it.
Oh, no titties for Terry.
No titties for Terry.
Yeah.
Oh man. Speaking of me though, another recommendation was from Tony Kaufman, where I was remembering the very first time that I saw the movie, The Changeling. This is from episode 125 with Robbie about The Changeling, and we talked about my weird religious girlfriend. And this is in two parts because there were two parts that I think kind of tied together a little bit. So, I mean,
this whole episode was absolute fucking madness,
chaos.
though.
Chaos. Okay, so I was in high school and I was dating this girl that would become a religious nut. I think I've mentioned her on the podcast before, where like she found, her mom and family found religion to the point that they thought that dinosaur bones were placed there by Satan to confuse people.
I put them there.
I knew that about you, Robbie. I've been waiting for this moment.
This is why we brought you on the podcast to reveal the truth about dinosaurs.
Surprise.
I forgot about that entirely.
Yeah, so her family ended up being nuts, but like, as a little closeted queer boy in the 90s, it was good to have a girlfriend to deflect these ideas. And she was my beard. And I just didn't realize it at the time.
How does she feel? Did she ever
I have not talked to her since then.
Okay, cool. I was like, I wonder if she ever found out if you were out. Okay.
The moment she started talking in tongues, I was kind of out.
That is so hot.
It really wasn't.
Robbie puts in Grindr profile, must speak in tongues.
I will do that right now.
So that was the first clip. I've never been baptized, but it just reminded, like, I just had this
You've
again.
never been baptized? Oh my god, you're doomed. Just kidding.
Well,
You're missing out. It's a wild time. And, like, when I was baptized, I was rolling. So fun. Wild.
What it just reminded me of again is my girlfriend trying to save me.
Oh.
I just had like a strong like flash of that, of her trying to save my eternal soul.
Was it like in Carrie, Eve was weak? Did she say Eve was weak to you?
She did not. She did not say that.
My mom was like, Adam for Adam, Adam for Adam. See their dirty pillows.
Wait, did you ever kiss her? Like, did your lips make contact at any point in this relationship?
I do not think so. I do not remember because
Wow.
I think when she broke up with me, she told me that I was not affectionate with her. And I'm like...
And you were like, oh no, don't know why.
My first girlfriend broke up with me for the same reason. I wouldn't even sit next to her on the school bus.
I think I was pretty much annoyed that she was like wanting to hold my hand and everything. And I'm like, ugh, can't we just say that we're boyfriend and girlfriend and just be done with it? Like, what is all of this? I just, oh my God. Like, memories are flooding back in that I haven't thought about in years because of this. Because I remember going to a dance and she was like rubbing up on me and just like smashing herself. And I'm just like, I don't know how to react to this.
Where's Jesus now?
Yeah, seriously. Whatever happened to being Jesus between us? Like, no.
You're like, I'm dating you because you believe in Jesus and you won't smash your body against
Oh, that was a weird homecoming. I think it was like 3 weeks later that she broke up with me.
You wouldn't smash.
I wouldn't
Sorry.
smash.
I speak with the cadence of a 13-year-old boy. You wouldn't smash. I am dying. My stomach hurts so much.
It's so
I'm already
warm in
dying
here
laughing.
already.
I forgot about that entire, like, I remembered it, but I forgot the, like, precise amount of madness that you revealed in that conversation. Like, wow.
And then we got to revisit it with Luke, with Revealer, and his Thief in the Night? Was that what it was called?
Yes, the weird rapture movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, weird times.
Yeah, guys, this podcast also has been therapeutic for us in some ways, apparently, where we just unlock memories while talking about movies.
I had not thought of that in like forever, and then all of a sudden, just the Changeling and the discussion just like flooded back to me. It was
You're like, oh my god, I dated.
memory unlocked. Yeah, that was the other moment, Tony. Remember when her mom brought up her uvula? Yes, that was the other moment that I had thought about including on here. But honestly, really, y'all should just go listen to that episode because it is pure chaos from the very start. I love you, Robbie.
We usually have like an outline of how things are going to go. Robbie said to your outline, it was incredible. Robbie, we love you so much. I owe you a call.
I do too.
But then we have a Joe Lipsett recommendation, friend of the pod, Joe Lipsett. And this is also an all-timer, because this is episode 107 with Lindsay, where we got her to watch Amityville 4, It's About Time, for the first time. God, it's so funny. We got her to revisit a movie that she said ruined her life for the first time since she first saw it. And it was so special. And that movie actually ruled.
It actually kind of does.
I actually really love that movie.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on in this episode besides Lindsay's story. We get the Terry's T-square ruler breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot about that. And then we just talk about, like, the house. Oh, but I want to hear the clip about going home and discovering the clock, because that's the clip that we have from this one.
The setup about this is that she watched this movie, was terrified at a slumber party, and then she goes home, and this happens.
Yeah, and I know you're not going to believe this part, but so my parents that night went to, like, I don't even remember. I should actually have asked them before this, and they'll probably be like, we have no idea what you're talking about. But they were at something, and they bought me a new clock.
No!
And when I came home, I swear, when I came home, terrified, like, we got you a new clock, and I stared at that thing.
No.
I put it, I kept lifting it up because I wanted to make sure that it didn't like drill into the wall, you know?
Yeah.
Because I like didn't trust it.
Shut up.
I swear. I like, oh God, I remember it was like a tiny little like black, like it was an analog clock. Is that what they're called? An analog clock that was like tiny and black on like a swivel. And they were like, oh, we got this new clock for you. And I was like, wow, this is the worst. And I was so scared of it. But like also my like weird angst made me like completely unable to tell my parents that I didn't want the clock. I just like kept it and kept checking to make sure it didn't drill through my house. Yeah. I was like, okay.
Oh my God, Lindsay.
Yeah, real. So it just absolutely ruined me.
I just love the fucking weird stories people bring to our podcast. We get the best stories. And that was one of the best experiences, getting her to watch that again and have her tell that bonkers fucking story about her parents buying her a goddamn clock the day after she watched Amityville 4. It's about time.
She was so terrified to revisit this one, y'all. Like the DM. She's like, I don't know if I can do this.
Like she was so nervous.
I don't know if I can do this.
Like she was
so nervous.
She tweeted about it. She's like, oh my God, I'm like revisiting this movie for the first time. And it's so funny because if you see it, it's like, it's not like fun. It's not like fully funny, but it's campy and ridiculous.
It's campy and it's not really scary.
It's not scary at all.
Like I can imagine, I understand being a kid and being scared by it, but like, as a revisit, this isn't like revisiting The Strangers or some shit.
No.
You know?
It's fun as fuck. But, yes. So those were some of our listener-picked moments. So thank you all for sending in all of your suggestions for those. And we have a lot more to go. So if you suggested one that we didn't do, it might be later in the show. So
it might be.
Keep on listening, because now we're moving on to some of our favorite kind of powerful, informative, moving moments. Moments that weren't necessarily sad or silly, but moments that really were just like impressive discussions or discussions that have stuck with us the entire time that we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah, and so the first one is from episode 31, where we talked with Andrew Scott Bell, who's a composer. And we were not prepared for him to come ready to just whip out some music and play it on the spot. And we have, so this part that we have, there's like a lot, that episode's really good, but there's this part in the beginning where he's talking about Forrest Gump and the music of Alan Silvestri and his score to this movie. And it's really touching and it's really cool. So we're going to play that right now.
From the Forrest Gump movie, but the last track on the second disc was A Suite of Themes by Alan Silvestri. And I used to come home and I had moved my CD player from my bedroom to the piano, and I would come home from school and press play and just try to learn it by ear. And I feel like I'm going to mess it up, but if I could... Like, I still know it to this day. I mean, I messed it up, but I still kind of know it to this day.
No, yeah.
And I love how much music, like, makes you feel, like, just hearing that part of it. I was like, oh my God, Forrest Gump. And then you get emotional thinking about, like, watching that movie. Like, I mean, not even just for that movie, but for, like, the experience of watching it with, like, my family, because my family loves that movie for some reason. But yeah, it's like the experience, like, the emotions it dredges up about memory rather than just the act of watching.
Right. Yeah, did it bring you back to the room with your family?
It did.
Yeah, that's so special.
Yeah, it is.
That's something special. I love about films and movies. My family really bonded by watching movies together. Because I feel like sometimes in America you don't, for whatever reason, verbalize love the best way. And I don't want to say that was my family, because my family was very vocal, but sitting together in a room and watching a movie was a way to feel love without saying I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about what we've been watching now, but what movie have you brought with you today, Andrew?
I have brought to talk about E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
And see, what I love about that is just the way that, like, I don't know, music can just bring out such emotions in you. Like, it just, like, brought me back. Well, like you said in the episode, Mary Beth, it brought me back to watching Forrest Gump, and it brought me the moment he started playing the E.T. song. It was just like, I felt like my heart was soaring when we were recording that. It was so special.
It was really. I forgot about how like great of a conversation we had about memory too.
He has such a good voice too. He is a voice for podcasting.
Yeah, he's a really good voice.
It was so soothing.
But that was really cool. And now he's still a friend, which again, a lot of like almost all the people we've had on our podcast are now like friends we talk to. I mean, I know it's hard to say the word friend in the world of the internet, whatever, but people that like we've recorded with, like I met Jonathan Cortas from My Heart Won't Beat Unless You Tell You To at Popcorn Frights. And I was like, oh my God, you're on the podcast. And it's like, it's been really cool to get to know some of these really talented people out there and get to be able to like call them friends and interact with them a little bit more frequently. So it's cool. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. But then after that, so this is this next clip was it's from our episode with April Wolf around, and we talked to her about her work on Black Christmas 2019, and she gave us a little bit of insight into kind of what happened with that project. Very candid. A little bit about the toxicity.
She was very candid in this entire episode, which we appreciated, and we just took a little snippet of that about her talking about Black Christmas.
I don't think Universal wanted to release it, I'll be honest. Because, you've seen it. It's a niche movie, and I think it's going to find its audience outside of the theaters and away from the marketing. It's a thing where I don't think that studio or any studio really knew how to market that movie.
Yes.
There was, and inherently there are a lot of men at the top who were marketing it, and none of them understood it and didn't know that we were doing something stylistically and tonally weird. And it was a hard thing to get over the threshold. So the fact that we got the box office that we did for us is a very big victory because we ended up making money.
And then this is another part.
The narrative around the movie was already talking about how it was doomed before it began.
So, it was so toxic, the discussion about this movie.
Even though we weren't a flop, we were painted as a flop. So
right.
I know.
It's terrible.
It's such a bummer. God. And it's just something where if you look at, some of their other films that are kind of comparable to our budget and what we were doing, it's like we actually did quite well.
Right.
But we're not really going to get that credit. And it's weird because it's not like anyone was like pissing and moaning necessarily about Fantasy Island being remade. And I just don't understand it.
I know.
Interesting.
Wonder
Very
what's going on there.
So weird. So yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. I think about that all the time too. Like all the time.
Yeah. And that was just a little part. She was very candid. Like her whole section about Black Christmas and the filmmaking behind it was really insightful.
Yes. So give that episode a listen if you want to hear more about that, because again, she does not hold back, which is really awesome.
No.
And I think it's a really important look at the way that women are treated. Women and women's stories are treated, not just by Twitter, but by executives. And, like, people really don't know what to do with women. But, yeah.
Up next, we have episode 95 with Matt Monagle. And, y'all, when he brings out this, there's, like, actual depth to Tremors 2 and why he likes it, I was gobsmacked. So, like, Mary Beth and I were both talking about how, like, silly this was, but then it was a very personal film for Monagle. And I was talking about the history behind the film and the fact that it almost didn't get made because Kevin Bacon became a star and he went off to go do Apollo 13. And then Monagle kind of dug into that fact and its importance to Tremors 2. And, we'll let you listen to it.
To its credit, too, Tremors 2 folded that into its own narrative, right? Like, the film is about Fred Ward's character kind of like being frustrated in the distance because Kevin Bacon's character made it big. Like they both had this traumatic, life-changing experience in the first film, and Kevin Bacon's character went on to fame and glory, and Fred Ward invested all of it in an emu ranch and lost video games and lost his money, right? So like the fantastic premise of this is the movie within a movie is the idea that he had an opportunity to make it big. He fucked up. He failed. And so this is his second shot at redemption. And the kind of the bookend of like him finding success on his own terms and kind of getting a little bit rich in the process because of all the graboids they've killed. Like that adds an extra level of fun. If they had basically just been, oh, it's Fred Ward again and there's more of the same, that would have been probably fine. But the idea that they folded into the narrative of the film, the idea that I'm sure a lot of fans were thinking of in the time is like, hey, where's Kevin Bacon? And like Fred Ward's character's life is basically, hey, where's Kevin Bacon? Mm-hmm. Like that's a neat bit of metatextuality that I think really works in the film's favor and kind of anchors it in this comedic narrative of somebody who didn't grow to resent his standings, but has reason to be frustrated and have a personal vendetta against these things.
That's very true. Yeah.
You have gone you have just gone so much deeper into this movie than I ever would have in my entire life. And like, I now have a newfound appreciation for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And like, I had fun with Tremors too, but he was just like so eloquently, just like off the top, just dives into this movie. And I mean, Monagle is one of the most thoughtful and I think like thoughtful writers and like culture critics out there. I think he has a really interesting perspective and I think he's really, really careful and good with his criticism. So he's very well researched. So it was just really cool to get into his brain that way and hear about a movie that I wouldn't have thought about that with. And he has like, if you plugging their site, Certified Forgotten, if you want more like their podcast and all the articles they run, if you want to look for some really awesome like underseen horror cinema and why it's worth watching, that is your destination for it. Plugging other people's shit on our own anniversary podcast.
I know. I mean, to be fair, I think we both did do an episode with them, right?
Mm-hmm. We did.
So you should go listen to those episodes.
Yeah, those are. I talk about found footage, motherfuckers. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
And I talked about Ju-on, The Grudge.
So good. And actually, so now for our next clip, we're going back to Black Christmas, but the original Black Christmas.
Which is funny because you had seen 2019 Black Christmas before you saw the original.
I did. Yes, all kind of ass backwards. But this is our episode 56 with Dean Capsalis, the director of The Swerve, which everyone should watch if you haven't, if you want to be sad as fuck. But this was my first time watching this movie, and I am now absolutely obsessed with this movie. Like, I bought Tales from the Stitch's Barb crochet doll. Like, it's everything. So this was the episode where we talked about that, and me talking about. We talked about it a lot, so I know you trimmed it pretty short, but just about like the importance of Black Christmas as a proto slasher and the final girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the first time I ever saw this movie, everybody, and my life has been changed forever and ever. Holy shit, this movie is fucking perfect. Those were my initial reactions. So I
can verify those were the original.
I don't know why we're muffled.
My very professional journalistic opinion, it's fucking perfect. So in watching this, and then I just randomly tweeted like, hey, this is the first time I ever saw this movie. I'm in shock. And a lot of people said it's the first slasher. And so I definitely I have heard a lot about it being the first slasher. So then to me, that means that Jess is the first final girl. She is like the original final girl. And so this leads to like a very interesting line of thinking for me, where it's like, if she is the original final girl, then how did we get to this idea that final girls are virginal and nerdy and like masculinized? Because that is not what Jess is to me. So I guess my thing with her is that like, she is I see her as equal to the other women. There is a virginal character, Claire. Don't they call her the professional? Barb calls her the professional virgin. She doesn't drink. So she is like the archetypal final girl like thing, but Jess is our final girl. And so what is really interesting to me is how did we all of a sudden get this trope that Carol Clover talks about if this is the first slasher and she is the first final girl when she's not really any of those things. And so this makes me thinking about the final girl evolution, and also the idea that the final girl term is super flexible. I mean, I know it's just a trope, but it's a really important trope, like academically and looking at horror movies. But I think it's more than just the smart virgin that we've always talked about. I think it needs to be a term more thought about around trauma rather than like virginity. And this movie, I've thought about that a lot recently, but this movie really solidified it for me, where it's like, this is a final girl getting an abortion and being very confident in her decision and very confident about her body. And that's amazing. So why would we reduce the final girl to a virgin who is smart and is like shy? And I know it's reductive, but that's kind of what the final girl is. So taking her and making it more about trauma, I think, makes it more fascinating to me. And this is what I've been thinking about all day.
Sometimes I actually am kind of smart.
A lot of times, I would say. Yeah, that was re-listening to that when I was pulling it, I was like, all right, Mary Beth, just drop that fucking mic. I mean, don't, because mics are expensive and don't ever do that, but
I know.
Figuratively.
I think about that all the time too, because The Black Christmas is like one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and I think it is just like every time I watch it, I get something out of it. I wrote last year about Barb's character as like an important bisexual icon, and reading into the reading into of characters that we do as queer people, and it's just such a fucking gorgeous movie. God damn.
Yeah.
So, and
goddamn.
Yeah. So I'm glad that this podcast forced me to watch it.
I mean, that's been one of my joys, honestly, as someone watching movies with you for a lot of times. I mean, recently it's been both of us, but a lot of times it's like your first watch, and it's been kind of fun to see you experience those movies for the first time. And this was like, I was so excited for that conversation because I mean, Black Christmas is a fucking masterpiece.
I don't know. It's like one of those movies where it's like, you can't even like understand it until you watch it, and just like, in the end, you just can't move. It's just so effortlessly the way it is. And that's what I think is so amazing about it. And I think that's what's so hard to make, why it's so hard to make like such a perfect horror movie, because you have to be simple. And I feel like people want to complicate horror a lot. And I understand that, but it's just, when you keep it fucking simple, man. Jesus.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. Anyway. I love movies.
Another great moment, though, that like I loved was episode 61 with Nay Beaver. And she was talking about the first time that she saw the people under the stairs, and being in a family that would criticize anyone. They didn't want people talking about racism. And so she was talking about how she was watching it and she had this idea that something was wrong, but she wasn't really allowed to critique it as being a racist thing. And then the clip is when she got a little older and she got the language and the ability to call out why the family at the center of this movie is so horrid. And we start talking about the family living in the house as sort of like this outward facing personality that kind of hides a rotting interior. And so that's kind of the lead into this clip.
The message of that, of like having this outward facing, seemingly like heteronormative, perfect, like able-bodied, kind, nice, charming, gives the cops coffee kind of vibe of people, and wealthy, and so many people are led to believe that like this is the ideal, this is what you should be, these are what good people are, this is kind of like the standard we should all be reaching for. This is like when we talk about respectability politics, like we're talking, we should try and be more like these people, and it's seen as this ideal, and it's coupled with all of the privilege that not only comes from being these things already, but then the privilege of like confusing everyone into thinking that that's what we all should be, and that's like what the right thing is. And these motherfuckers are the worst. Like they are garbage in every single way. And I think of this often when someone, you're talking to them about like, hey, I didn't really care for what your dad said to me at your house the other day. It was kind of racist or like sexist or something. And they're like, oh my God, he's so nice. He didn't mean that. Like, these are good people. And you're like, okay, maybe to you they are, but like, you're actually not a good person if you're a racist. Like, it doesn't matter like how nice your hair is done. And if you bring the cops coffee, like, you're not a good fucking person. And I think that was part of, as a kid, when I talked about knowing that we weren't supposed to critique this, I think that was a huge part of that.
No, that was and I was really glad that she came on to talk about that movie.
Yeah.
And it was a really good talk about a movie that, you know, Wes Craven is probably one of the few white directors that has actually handled topics of race as well as he did in People Under the Stairs. That movie is so much more fucked up than I had expected it to be.
Same.
It's so fucked up. It's wild.
That was the first watch for me, too.
Oh, that's right. It was the first watch for you. Okay. Yeah. And just having Nate's perspective on it was really... And she's just the fucking coolest.
She's so cool.
Regardless. So...
I love her.
Just having her talk about horror movies.
Yeah.
It's neat. All y'all are fucking neat and smart and cool. It's just cool to know you.
It's just so cool. All right, Mary Beth, we had to get
to
the sad section. This is like, so we wanted to sandwich the sad section between like some of the happier moments because we only have 3 clips for this part, but we cry, y'all.
It's heavy metal to cry.
Yeah. So this first one is from Brian Christopher's episode 84. And we're talking about the Neverending Story, and Mary Beth at this point, we both have actually been on the verge of tears for most of the discussion about this movie. And then we get to the part about Rockbiter and his failure to save his friends from the nothing. And, well, we kind of have a hard time keeping it together. So here we go.
Oh my god. Okay, I keep feeling like I'm going to cry talking about this. So obviously this movie had an impact on me as we keep talking about it because I'm like getting very emotional.
I am too.
Oh boy.
That moment where it's like, but he also is a stand-in for. He's sort of the father figure of this group. He's the big guy. He's the protector. He's the one that is like larger than the rest of these almost kid-size like people. The Hob or the Night Hob and Teeny Weeny and stuff. And that thing, like you were saying, Brian, where they look like big, good, strong hands, don't they? And then talking about how the nothing pulled them right out of his hands and he failed. It brought me back to like the father and this sort of like idea of what the father figure or your parental units are supposed to be for your family, where they're supposed to keep you safe, and they failed. And I thought about that with this statement, and I never really saw it as a kid, but as an adult, it like really hit me hard last night.
Yeah. And again, it's introducing these concepts that are so deep for kids. Like we're talking about, you know, the death of your parents, but we're also talking about like the fallibility of your parents. Like your parents aren't perfect and they are going to fail you in certain ways. And how do you deal with that? You know, and that kind of realization is jarring, not just for the people who have been failed, but for the person who has failed them.
Yeah.
So it's bringing up some really heavy stuff.
Right now, I'm just thinking about as a kid, the way your parents. Oh my god! Woo. Okay.
Are we going to actually get Mary Beth to like openly sob on this episode? That's.
It's getting closer and closer.
Close.
So, like, if you want me to start talking about my familial problems, just kidding. No one wants that. But it is just like you think about it as when you're a kid and when you rely on adults to protect you, even when like you're a teenager, and the ways that they can't protect you and how you feel betrayed by that. But at the same time, they're not infallible human beings who can't. Oh, okay. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm 37 years old and I'm still navigating how to handle that. How do you navigate acknowledging and taking seriously the ways in which they failed you while also accepting them for what they still are?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's not easy. You know, it's always something that I'm like maybe figuring out in my late 30s, but you still get tripped up.
So I really like the ending of this movie from a like meta textual standpoint, where, you know, the childlike princess is telling Atreyu, you know, that he being Bastian has suffered with you. He went through everything that you went through. And that it kind of ties back into that, the kind of magicalness of reading and experiencing other people's stories through reading, because it's like, yeah, you know, these characters went through a lot of trauma, but so did you by reading through it, and you survived it. And it brings back to that moment where Urgel says it has to hurt if it's to heal.
Oh. Hard time. There are tears coming down my face, and I have never cried during an episode. And this movie that I said I didn't know if I liked, I'm like openly crying. So.
That was an emotional episode.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to reopen that wound.
When did we record that? What was that date?
It was sometime in 21, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. I'm just trying to be like, what was happening to me when we recorded that episode? Where was I in my journey of realizing that I have abusive parents? Like, where was I there? Wow. Yeah, that
was a lot. That was a lot. I was not expecting. I was expecting some tears. That was May of 2021.
Okay.
I was expecting some tears that episode, but I was not expecting to like be on the verge of tears throughout most of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Emotions.
Yeah.
That was right, because it was funny, because I was like, I don't even know if I liked this movie, but now I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack talking about parents.
Well, I think that's interesting though, is that, you know, you might not really have much of a reaction to a film, and then you start actually talking about it, and then when people bring different perspectives to it, it makes you appreciate it in a different way, to the point that like it starts to make you cry.
Yeah. And then you cried again. Well, you cried before this.
Yeah, this was before.
But
it's only fair that we talk about it, because this was an episode that like I ended up having to stop talking for a minute, and Mary Beth bravely carried on. In an almost like, in my mind, well, I'll play the clip and then I'll explain in my mind what I was thinking of re-listening to this. But this was episode 64, when we talked about the best of 2020 and my favorite film, Relic, and why that hit so hard. This movie, I think I talked about it a little bit when we did interview Natalie, but like I'm someone that comes from a family who has experienced dementia. My grandmother had it. I remember the first time that she told us that someone came into her apartment and hit her on the back of her head.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened. It's just, it was a moment of her brain shutting down and her falling and hurting herself, and then realizing that she has dementia, and then seeing it again in other members of my family. It's this sort of like realization watching this movie of like what your potential future might look like.
Yeah.
And the way that this film ends on such a note of these 3 generations of women really understanding and coming to grips with what is living beneath that horror is like, whew, I cried so hard when I finished this movie. And I'm getting teared up right now.
Oh no,
it's,
I was gonna say, I love you.
It's an emotional movie, and
it is though. But that's something special about it, that it makes you feel that strongly. And I think that's what's so crucial about horror, and how horror is shifting in a trajectory like this. And don't be calling it elevated horror, because that's not what we're saying here.
No.
Absolutely the fuck not. But it's the way that new filmmakers are approaching like the usual topics of horror, but in a much more thoughtful way.
Yeah.
That hits you differently. It's not just about scaring you, but it's about like reflecting on your own personal experiences and realizing how scary those experiences are, and seeing yourself on screen. And I think your experience with Relic is a testament to this year's films and like what stuck out to us, and films that really like got us and made us cry and hit us in spots that we probably didn't expect.
But when I was listening back to that episode, I had because I have to bring everything back to 30 Rock. There's a GIF that gets put around of like Liz Lemon when she's really sick. And, no, it's not that one. No, it's another moment from 30 Rock. I have so many of them where, she's like talking with her boyfriend and he like breaks down and she's not prepared for it. She's like, "It okay? Don't be cry." And she's like petting him. And that is the feeling I got, from this, because like you gamely carried on while I was trying to fucking compose myself, because I was Emotional wreck.
There, don't be cry. I've got it.
And EL and Tony are saying,
oh God,
crying again listening to these clips, and yeah, it's I don't know. It can be emotional like this. I think when you're talking about things that scare you or scar you a lot, there's going to be times where it's more than just jump scares or more than just something scary. It's something a bit more emotional down below.
Yeah. Which leads to our next clip.
And I promise this is our last one, and we're going to be...
It's our last sad one. So this is from episode 123, where we interviewed Maddie Doe. And it is one of the best episodes we've ever recorded, but also one of our most unconventional episodes we've ever recorded.
And least listened to, let's be honest, unfortunately.
Which is really frustrating because it's one of our best episodes because we talked to Maddie Doe about Laos, about Lao and this movie that we watched,
The Killing Fields.
The Killing Fields, yeah. So we watched The Killing Fields, which is very much based on a true story. And Maddie's family actually lived through this situation, and she wrote this movie, and we talked a lot about her family's history. And this was a movie that's not a horror movie, but it's a fucking horror movie because it's about the atrocities that people are capable of and that the United States government had a very big hand in. And we talk here not just about things that terrified us as kids, but also these very real conversations about death and human fears. So, yeah.
And to kind of tee up this clip, she first saw this movie when her parents had her watch this movie when she was 4. And then she watched it again a few years later. And this clip is about her second time watching it with her father.
I recall later in life, I was still a child. I don't know if we fucking owned it or what. Like, literally, I don't know. My father played it again. My mother couldn't watch it. And he sat my older brother and I down, and he paused the film during traumatic moments, rewind, play it again, and tell us, don't look away. Don't look away because this is what I went through. This is how people in Southeast Asia, we all went through this. We all encountered this. And you need to know your background and the trauma that we left behind. And you need to understand that your life in America was built on the backs of these people.
Your dad was not fucking around, man.
My dad never fucking around, you guys. My dad
your dad was like, hey, you're going to appreciate what the fuck you have right the fuck now. And this movie is, oh my God.
That just took my breath away.
And I do appreciate what I have, by the way. I think that the reason why I can be such a cowboy filmmaker, because I think you guys have probably seen behind the scenes pictures of my film sets. They're wild, right? It's 10 of us making a fucking movie in the jungle. And I think the reason why I can go through so much crazy shit and why I'm super resilient is because I realize that nothing I will go through in my lifetime, I hope, will ever even hold a candle to what, Nitpan in Cambodia, what he went through, or what even my parents went through, which my parents didn't go through a massive genocide like that, because Lao didn't have a genocide as bad as that. We had a large brain drain. We had a large persecution era, which we'll talk about because it's part of the trauma of this film and my father reminding me. But imagine being a child under 10 years old, and there's a scene when they're still in the city. They're still in Phnom Penh, and all the journalists are being rounded up, and they see the Khmer Rouge starting to come into the city and being celebrated. And they see these other guys, these other militants or soldiers being kicked over and shot in front of them on the street. Meanwhile, Pran is telling the journalists, get in the car, let's go. And you just hear off screen the shots 3 times. And you know that all 3 of those guys that they had on their knees the same time as a journalist got shot. And my dad pauses the film and he says, I was walking around Vientiane as a young boy, and I was wearing bell-bottom pants and like the like Leisure Suit Larry outfit, because that was what was popular back then, right, in the 70s. And I remember a soldier who was like not much older than me, young, kicking me over and holding a gun to my face and questioning me because I seemed too Western, because I was wearing like what I thought was like the coolest shit clothes ever. You know, he was out acting like a peacock, like, yeah, I'm so awesome. Look at me in my bell bottoms. And then he got accosted and assaulted by this soldier and put in his place for being too Western. And I was just like, oh my God, my dad could have been shot. Like, my dad could have been shot like these dudes. And how do you process that as a child? It just scars you.
And that episode as a whole was like emotional because, I mean, as EL is pointing out in chat, if I remember correctly, Maddie Doe's dog passed away shortly before we recorded. And she was kind of an emotional wreck, and she was talking about it. And then I started reminiscing about my cat that I lost that was near and dear to my heart. And just a lot. There's a lot going on.
We cried a lot about pet death
in
that episode, like way more than I had anticipated.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
Yep. Don't want to think about it.
No.
I hate it.
Yeah, me too.
Disgusting.
But enough with the sad stuff. Like, we just wanted to like point out that, you know, not everything on the episode is just, you know, about fun. There are some very emotional and hard-hitting conversations that we have.
Yeah.
But onto the fun things.
Now
this first clip, speaking of fathers, this first clip, episode 44 with Amy Seimetz, which is honestly one of my favorite episodes just because she was an absolute riot to record with. I wish we had had more time to record with her.
Fucking funny.
I was not expecting her to have such a sardonic, dark sense of humor, although I should have watching her movies, but like, I wasn't ready. And so we'd been talking about her first movie, Sun Don't Shine, and she was recording it while she was dealing with denial of death because she was taking care of her dad, knowing that he was going to pass away soon, and she wasn't ready for it. And we transitioned from that to talking about She Dies Tomorrow, which has this plot point about one of the characters talking about kind of what to do with her remains after she dies. And then Amy just surprises the fuck out of us with this.
People have to deal with that in real life.
It's a real question that you probably don't think about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do with the remains?
Yeah, I mean, I did when my dad passed away, but again, like I was like trying to convince my sister that we should make him into fireworks, and like she was like, no. And I was like, why not? Why not? Like, what else are we going to do? You know, like...
Holy shit. Wait, I never... Oh my God, you can make someone into fireworks?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, mm-hmm.
That's actually amazing. I would love to... That's actually so fun. It's like a celebration. It's
That's
exciting.
What I thought. Well, also, yeah, because I thought... And it's also sentimental. I can't believe she didn't go... We actually might be able to still do it. Maybe she'll go for it now that there's time has passed. But it's also like... That's the other dark thing. By the way, the other dark thing. This is so terrible, and I this is actually a very common thing, but that I learned is that so my dad's ashes are still with us, and when I say with us, I mean at my mother's house, who is his ex-wife of 37 years. So he's in my mom's closet right now.
In the closet, like
and like every time I come home, like to visit my mom, she's like, "Can we get rid of him?" Sorry, my mom is wonderful, but she's like, "Can we get rid of him?" And I'm like, "Oh, I really don't want to right now. I'm having a good time." You know what I mean? Like it's like the last thing that I want to do. Like so, like just a word of advice is like if you're gonna get rid of the ashes, like do it really soon after the funeral because you don't want to revisit it.
Right.
Lingering in your closet.
In my mom's. If it was my closet, I probably would do something. But since it's my mother's, I don't. Yeah.
Wow.
But maybe we can. Now I'm just realizing maybe we can make him into fireworks now.
best thing I've ever listened to. I forgot how fucking funny that was.
Before this, she's shooting things off, and there's a moment where like she stops and we're paused. We're like, what are we even saying? She's like, are you still with me?
She was like, keep up, motherfuckers. And I was like, okay, sorry. So funny. Man, she's fucking...
I would love to talk with her again. She was great.
She is so fucking clever and sharp. She's just fucking smart, man. And she's really talented. She Dies Tomorrow, if you haven't seen it, please. It's so good. It was one of the best movies
so
of the year.
good.
It's just, oh my God. Amy Seimetz has just like such an incredible sense for like weird storytelling. Anyway.
I'd also really recommend watching Sun Don't Shine, her first film, which I had watched right before we recorded. And I was like, it's good. Like, She Dies Tomorrow is better, but like it is good. She started off very strong with that film. And I really liked watching it and then having the discussion about how the idea of the denial of death, because it kind of retextualized what I had just seen in a much more interesting way. But she was an utter delight.
She was an utter delight. Amy, come back on our podcast challenge. Anywho, and now all I ever think about when like my friend's parent passed away recently, I thought about the episode of fireworks.
That thought had never crossed my mind.
No. And then the movie also, she asks if she can be made into a leather jacket. And so now I think about being made into a leather jacket a lot. So take that as you will. Anywho. The next clip is from my favorite episode, because it's the one where me and Greg Mucci fight Terry about The Shining. This is a pretty early episode 27. And Terry, you can tee up the clip, but it's like this whole entire episode was just beefing with Terry. It was so funny. It was incredible.
So the clip that I picked out for this was we were talking about Dr. Sleep and The Shining, and discussing how they incorporate young Danny into older Danny. And we started talking about how well Dr. Sleep uses the woman in room 237. And we get into some more spicy territory. This whole episode is spicy.
I think Dr. Sleep, it uses the woman from 237 incredibly well, because for me, watching that at such a young age and, always envisioning her behind a random shower curtain, it's like she's not in the movie anymore. She's in my bathroom. And in Dr. Sleep, like she's not at the Overlook anymore. She's in my bathroom. And it's like I sort of felt like a relatable fear with Danny, and it was like sort of like your trauma never stays put. Like it's always with you, and I like that hit me really well with Dr. Sleep, and I think it works as a great sequel. Let me pause this really quick, because
what I want to say, the other important context about this is that one of my complaints about The Shining is that there's like no character growth. Like Jack Nicholson's character starts the movie incredibly on the edge of insanity, and then just is that one note through the entire movie. And so that was one of my big complaints about that movie. So I just wanted to bring that up before we get into this next part. I think in some ways it's a better movie than The Shining, because it actually gives its characters a career trajectory. Wow. Because like you just talked about Danny having an actual character arc, and I just don't. It's true. I just don't see it.
What did you give Dr. Sleep, Terry?
What
did you actually give? Because I know you don't have a single rating for Dr. Sleep.
No, I don't. It's one of those. When I saw it in the theater, I loved it up until the part where he tries to go into the movie, The Shining. And at that point I was like, I'm over this movie.
Okay.
And then I watched it. I watched the director's cut right after I watched The Shining to prep, and I think the director's cut is a really good film.
I think it's better.
Oh, it's much better. It doesn't, even for the 3 hour long runtime, I don't feel it. Yeah. Unlike The Shining. So
what was that? What was that?
First off, it's 144 minutes. Don't even. Man, you got some people gunning for you.
I know I do. If it wasn't for this, it was for my thoughts on The Exorcist. So
I don't want to go there. Let's not.
Eddie L says is this when Terry first started getting bullied, and yes, I do believe it started in episode 27. What do you got to say, Mary Beth?
Absolutely fucking nothing. I still haven't seen Dr. Sleep, motherfucker. Steve and I keep wanting to watch it, and then it's too long, and then we watched It Chapter 2 instead, which is longer. I truly cannot give you any reason other than,
yeah. I mean, I have had some spicy hot takes on this show. Between that and The Exorcist, I'm sure there's more that I'm just not thinking off the top of my head. But yeah, that was one spicy episode.
That was a spicy episode. So yeah, that's episode 27 if you guys want to go back and listen, because it's just bully Terry hour.
It really is.
It's not okay. But it's fun. It's not like
it's fun.
It's not like
mean.
mean confrontational, like talking down. Like I know that some podcasts have that problem sometimes, and that's not shade to anybody, to anyone that we know. It's just like in general podcasts. Mm-hmm. But whenever we bully Terry, it's out of love. It's not out of like actual like anger or like what the fuck, but out of just like it's funny to be an asshole. I don't know. That makes me sound like a terrible person.
I'm the victim here.
Words have meaning, Mary Beth.
Okay. Another favorite moment from an episode, though, is episode 87, when Sapphire Sandalo came on the show. And she was talking about the movie Dolls. And she sets up the story about the first time she was forced to watch Dolls. And we talk about her babysitter, Melody.
Let me. It's so bad. So I was, I think, 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. But yeah. So it was me and my sister. My sister's like a year older than me. We had a babysitter named Melody. Melody, if you're still out there, fuck you.
Fucking Melody.
Fuck Melody. So she was the fucking worst. Okay, she was the fucking worst. So me and my sister are so small. We are so little. And she thought it would be hilarious to put on the movie Dolls and lock us in the room so we were forced to watch it. And I can't remember if she like brought the VHS to our house and played it. I'm like, wait, how are we watching Dolls? Like, I don't remember like how that happened, but I remember so vividly. She put it on and then she ran out of the door and locked it. And me and my sister were like, ah! We started screaming and we were like banging on the door to let us out, and she wouldn't let us out.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing. I don't remember at what point she did eventually let us out. And I don't know if I just blocked out everything from this movie. So like rewatching it, there were certain things I like vaguely remember. And I'm like, oh, wow, did she really lock us in there the whole time? But yeah, so that was my experience with Dolls.
Holy
and after
shit.
she let us out, I called my mom and I was like, I told her what happened, and my mom immediately came home and fired her.
Okay. I was like, please tell me that she never babysat you ever again. Was that the first time she had Was that the first time she had babysat you?
It might have been. Here's the thing. I know that there were multiple days because there was another. Again, she's the worst. There was another day where she locked me outside in the backyard because she thought it was funny. And then
what the fuck is wrong with her?
Yeah, she's psychotic. So, and like our sliding door to the backyard is clear. So I'm like looking through, my sister's right there, and like she's too weak to like open the door. That's why. And then Melody's like, no, back away from the door. Like she thought it was so funny, and I was just like, let me in. What the fuck is happening?
Wow.
Oh my God,
Fuck you,
Melody.
Melody.
If you're listening to
Right?
this, fuck you.
Fuck you, Melody.
Yeah, fuck you, Melody. Evil bitch.
I just cannot believe that. Like, we've had bad babysitting stories, but
That was the worst one. That was like the most outright malicious one. Like not being like not like a kid trying to be with like a boy or something, but like all that like just being really shitty to children.
fuck you, Melody.
Fuck you. Why did we ever like in what universe did we were like, yeah, cool. Teenagers can watch our children while we go do things. Why did we ever decide that that was perhaps the correct thing to do?
It beats me.
I did it for
Yeah, me
a
too.
long time. Who put me in
too.
charge of baby anyway?
I know.
What?
Who thought that was a good idea?
I mean,
Ugh.
anyway. So that just started thinking about that. God. No wonder we all
fuck
got
you,
fucking
Melody.
traumatized.
I just love
by
that.
babysitters. I know. Fuck you, Melody. The next episode is a very fun one because it is one of my favorite stories from our friend Jessica Rose. This is episode 14, where we discover Jessica's greatest fear, which is animatronic dinosaurs.
Yeah, and so this was like a very long section, so I snipped it out. I snipped it down a bit so that it would be a better clip. But yeah, this just, you gotta listen.
This is ridiculous. And there's been so many instances that I just want to share with you where I tried to face this, especially as I got more into horror, that I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like,
So is it dinosaurs or is it the animatronics?
okay, so I'm a very particular, there's a term for it because there's dinophobia, but then there's ornithocetophobia. And that's like a more specific phobia, I guess, of dinosaurs. But I go even deeper than that because this is how sick I am. I am terrified to the core of animatronic dinosaurs. It sounds so stupid. I am terrified of Jurassic Park specific dinosaurs.
Yeah, so that was the first part. And then she gives us a practical example of this fear in place when she and her fiance-to-be and her family went to Universal Studios, and one of the big popular rides is the Jurassic Park ride, and she was so terrified about going on there. And so I asked her, I was like, so did you end up going on the ride? And she said no. And then, so I take it you didn't go on that ride.
I did not. I had
It's such a good
one
ride.
cigarette that I packed because I knew I was not going on this ride. And so
you even prepared for it with a cigarette.
It's so true. I swear to God.
I am
Poor
obsessed
Nick.
with you.
And that was Nick's first time in like Disney World and Universal Studios, and that's one of the biggest attractions there. And I was like,
it's so good.
I know it's good. I appreciate Jurassic Park for what it is as much as I can, but I just was like, I feel bad. Do you want to go on it? And he was great. He was like, no, I'll wait with you. They had like an hour and a half wait.
Oh.
And so we sat there, and I'm smoking my cigarette, and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, this guy just asked me to marry him. He respects me for being a strong woman. And I'm sitting here and my fingers are trembling with the cigarette that I can't even put in my mouth because you can hear the sounds. Like, I think that's what also gets me so bad is like the roaring and the thumping. Just, I've never had a panic attack or an anxiety attack. Or if I have, I just powered through them. But that is as close as I could get.
Later on in the episode, she talks about another occasion where she was on the set for Creepshow, and there's like a segment with like a sea monster or something, and it's an animatronic creature, and she was like having a panic attack because she was in a professional setting and she didn't want to see the creature. Just wild.
I fucking forgot about the cigarette. Just the single shaking cigarette outside of
It's
the
the small
ride.
details.
It's just so good. And she's got a kid now. She's a baby. Oh, just an absolutely incredible, like one of those stories where you're like, there's no other story like this out there, and we get to talk about it, and it's really cool.
It's so specific.
It's so specific.
It's so specific.
So yeah, that was just so good.
Speaking about other things that are very specific, we also talked with Addison Peacock on episode 114, where she and her Scarred for Life moment was Dead Silence, but she never saw the movie. She just saw the trailer for it, and it absolutely terrified her. And so she launched into the story about why it terrified her.
Something about 12-year-old Addison that you should know is that, and this is like one of my weird like childhood things, is that I had, oh my God, it's fine. Haven't told this story in like its fullness on a podcast before.
I can't wait.
When I was 12, I had like a not extensive but not insignificant collection of marionette puppets.
Marionette puppets?
Why? There was this, okay, I'm from a small town in Virginia, and there's this part of my town, that's like the Old Town Mall, and it's like this, kind of cobblestoned, like, street of like stores, and like cafes and stuff. It's very cute. It's very like small town idyllic. But in the summers, or like in the like warm weather, there'd be people out there doing like street vendery things. And one of the people that around that period of time would have stuff to display and sell in the streets, there was this person, this like woman who sold these like hand carved marionette puppets, and she would like demo them, and you could buy them. This sounds so not like a real thing.
Yeah, this sounds like the fucking beginning of a horror movie, Addison. I met this woman on the street who made hand carved marionettes, and I bought one, and it killed me in my sleep.
And it killed me in my sleep.
I'm funny, huh?
You are.
I cannot fucking believe that she collected marionettes. Oh, that's another incredible story where it's like, oh, so you had a incredibly specific relationship to this movie because of a very niche interest because of where you live. Like, that is just so cool and fucking weird.
So weird.
Also, I'm really glad she brought Dead Silence, because that was a very fun discussion about a movie that is like definitely, again, the range we have in the podcast talking about the killing fields, and Dead Silence. You know, love
as you
range,
do,
as you do. So getting even sillier. This is from episode 22 with Josh Anderson, where he came on to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and he kind of gave us a new term for the feeling.
He sure did.
For the feelings he experienced watching this movie.
And he was terrified because it was set in the real world, and that was like the big thing for him. But let's just tee you off on that. Here we go.
Is thinking, holy crap, what if this could happen in the real world? What if Freddy's actually real and Wes Craven actually experienced this, and it's like a biography, an autobiography or whatever. So that kept that in mind. The closet scene where...
Miss me.
Yeah, oh, see, I just got chills when you said that. Like, not even chills, SPFs, which SPFs are scary butt feelings. No.
Oh my God, I got them scary butt feelings.
Yes, when you get super scared and your butt just clenches and it like vibrates in a certain kind of way inside.
Yep. Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what occurs.
Hell yeah.
But
I'm laughing because we were DMing back and forth about or like, and I don't think we were DMing, we were just replying back and forth, and you mentioned SPF SPF, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Is this something I should know? And so I Googled it, and according to Urban Dictionary, it was straight best friend.
Nope, not straight best friend.
And I was like, I don't think that's what he means. But
no. Scary butt feelings.
Scary butt feelings.
Oh, when the inside of your butthole vibrates when you're scared. Yeah, scary butt feelings.
Scary butt feelings.
Oh my God. What an angel. An angel.
Yeah. Love him. And then these last few are just
horny.
Some of the more horny sexual moments of the show. And we're starting it off on a more innocent note with episode 19 with Villisca Griffiths, when she came on to talk about The Secret of Nim. And we get on the subject of Don Bluth, specifically kind of the fact that he might have created a bunch of anthropomorphic animal lovers with his animation of Robin Hood. And then we start talking about Justin the Rat. And, well, rest is history. Yeah, so when Mary Beth, it was so funny when you were tweeting last night, you're like talking about how hot the rat is, and your boyfriend was like, excuse me? I was like dying because it's true. Where's the lie?
He literally came on screen. I was like, "Oh, it's the hot rat." Like it was ingrained in my my subconscious that Justin is the hot rat. And so many people agreed with me and came out about it and said that they felt the same way about him and Robin Hood. And I was like, I have found my people, my freaks.
Yeah, I was reading all the responses to your tweet. They're just like, "You're talking about Justin?"
And I'm like, thank you for knowing exactly who I'm talking about. Wait, so why do we think he's attractive? Like, can we dig into this? Like, why? What is it? What is it about him?
He has very good posture.
You were ready. You're like, I know exactly why he's hot, and it's his posture.
I'm pulling up a picture because I think it's his face. His face to me is like he has. I can't believe
that
talking.
Face.
He has a good voice too, though.
He does have a really good voice.
Yeah.
He has a good smile. His eyes are just so like
stars in my eyes.
I don't know, animated.
Okay, now I'm also pulling up a picture so I can check out his shoulders.
Oh my god,
I love a good shoulder.
And he just like he's a little goofy.
He's self-effacing, which is nice.
Yes, and he's so boy. This is really exposing some of my kinks. He's so tall, especially when he's standing next to Mrs. Brisby.
And he can wear a tunic.
Yes, he can.
Is the implication here that somehow he and Mrs. Brisby hook up? Did you?
I mean, I hope so. I'm shipping them.
Okay, cool. I was like, am I the only one that was like not like reading between the lines of that and being like, cool, interspecies love, we can make it work.
Well, yeah. I also just really wanted him and Jenner to fuck. I'm sorry.
Wow. There's a lot of tension there, though. I feel like if they just like...
This is no longer a horror podcast.
God, that's... New podcast idea, just talking about sexy cartoon characters.
Sexy cartoon characters. We've had a lot on the podcast.
We have talked about a lot of sexy cartoon characters. And it makes me feel seen that I'm not the only one that had a sexual awakening to cartoon characters. Danny Phantom awoke something inside of my body.
Robin Hood. And I forget who we were talking to recently where he was saying Maid Marian. And I was like, yes, Robin Hood for me. I forgot who it was, but... It was some guy we were talking to recently that was talking about Maid Marian from the Robin Hood movie. And I'm like, yeah.
Wild. So to up the ante to this next one.
Oh, God.
Tell us about it, Terry, because you're the one that brought this upon us all.
I sure as fuck did. This was, oh boy. This was episode 12, the end of the decade, where we had Molly and Jessica on. To talk about the best films of the decade. And I don't remember exactly why Adam Scott came up, but Adam Scott came up and it triggered a memory for me of watching him in an HBO show called Tell Me You Lovely, in which, he gets pleasured. And, yeah, I'm just going to play the clip. All right, I'm putting it in.
That's what she said.
It's graphic.
Oh, no.
Oh, and I'm sharing a GIF. I should put that out. I'm like, we talk about this GIF that's out there. And I was like, I found a GIF of it. And so I find it and I share it in Twitter DMs. That is the other key point.
I'm just dreading the 3 dots.
It takes a little bit.
Oh my God.
I told you.
That has to be a prosthetic, yeah.
It is. It is a prosthetic.
You guys know.
What?
Wow.
Oh my God.
This was on HBO.
Wow.
That's straight up porno.
It doesn't, and it doesn't show him ending. Like,
No.
it actually.
Oh my God.
She's like very aggressive looking at that penis. I don't think I've ever looked that aggressively at a penis during a hand job before, but maybe I'm drinking just wrong. But
if I did, the lights were on.
Oh my god!
I feel like I'm at the lab.
There you go.
Okay, back on track.
This is where I was like, oh, I love Adam Scott.
So.
Okay.
Oh my god.
So.
Yeah.
I can't stop looking at it.
I know, me neither. I actually clicked it so I could see it because I can't see anymore. I can't see it all, and then it went full screen on the
Oh my god. What I love is that Mary Beth is trying so hard to get us back on top. She's like, okay, so, and you're just like staring at this repeating gif of Adam Scott's wife on the show, just literally giving him a handy, and they left nothing to the imagination with this prosthetic penis that she was staring at quite aggressively, as Mary Beth said. I don't know if I have it anymore, Tony. I'll see if I can find the GIF, and if I do, I'll send it to you. It's a lot.
What's the show called again?
It's Tell Me You Love Me.
Tell Me You Love Me. Okay, well.
And then escalating it a little bit more, we have 2 more clips to share with you. And the first one is from episode 76 with Adrian Torres. We were talking about society, and in particular, the shunting. And about how the family raised the adopted Bill and raised him for the shunting. And along the way, we kind of go deep on shunting, squelching, and lube. That's an awful lot of work to adopt someone and raise them to be 18 and then feast on them. And like, that seems like at some point the return on investment is just really out of whack.
You've never shunted.
Oh,
I mean, this is also very true.
Okay, Terry, this means that you have a decision to make in 2021. You either have to shunt for the first time or watch Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps it is. Good point. This brought back the fact that I've still have not seen Ginger Snaps.
You still
Moving
haven't
on.
seen Ginger?
So to say, Terry, your birthday's this week, so over the week we're recording this, so get to shunting.
No, I will take time off of work and go watch Ginger Snaps.
Terry,
spoiler alert, he did not.
Birthday shunting.
Oh God.
Oh, shunt till you're 40.
Jesus Christ.
You were joking about it. 40. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop now. Just the images. The shunting.
The most frightening image for me, though, was the image of Judge Carter with the cigar in his mouth, the full-on image of him like walking towards the camera, and it's like he's so sweaty and so gross and so covered in lube that it is that moment. Like when I was watching this last night, I was like, oh, this is like more upsetting to me than anything else. Just the leering look on his face as he is covered in like slick.
What did that room smell like, you think?
Oh, I don't want to know either what it smelled like in the movie or what it smelled like to film it. I can't.
Yeah, I was going to say either one.
I think the worst thing about this watch was having captions on when I was watching it and
squelching.
Don't say it.
Everything was squelching.
If you're over under on how many times you use squelching in closed captions for a film is over 25, that's too much. That's way too much.
Everything squelched. Walking down the street, squelching. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's Twitter, so I don't know how much better it is. There's probably a lot of squelching going on there, too.
I'm sure there is.
Jesus.
Every day they're squelching.
Oh, Terry, why?
Every day I'm squelching. That doesn't fit very well, but sorry.
Now I'm going to have nightmares about those hamsters from the commercials in the shunting.
Oh God, in those cars, those
shunting
Kias.
hamsters. No.
I'm sorry, Adrian. So, you're at
Guys,
Yo
I'm sorry. I
Adrian.
think this is the grossest episode we've ever done, I think. I think it might be the grossest one.
Quite possibly. Yeah. I don't think anything topped that one.
I'm going to make a t-shirt that say Terry's 40th birthday shunting bash. And everyone has to wear them at my wedding.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh, fuck. Man, missed opportunity to call it the shunt to have my wedding just be the shunting.
Oh my god.
Actually, wait, it's not too late.
Welcome to the shunting.
Everyone's handed a bottle of lube when they come in to just douse themselves.
Oh my god. Oh my
I
god.
think my mom would really love
Your mom would. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
So, our last clip.
This is it, guys.
This is it. This is the final clip. This is from Little Cuts 83.
It's everyone's favorite moment, I'm pretty sure. It's a discussion of Pretty Little Liars, Original Sin. So, that's all I'm going to tell you. The filmmakers, the showrunners used to write for Riverdale and Sabrina. So if you're looking for a kind of like expectation, this is like a more... When I say adult, I mean more like there's a lot of nudity and sex and language, and there's butts and pee-pees and curse words. I sure as fuck did. Butts and pee-pees. I think I know what the episode title is going to be. Fuck.
I'm an adult.
Here we are. You're an adult. I'm the one that said pee-pees. Instead of penises or dicks or cocks or anything, I decided pee-pees.
I know. And you've said all of those words on this podcast before. It's
but today, they're pee-pees. I just imagine. Can you imagine getting into it with something like, "Oh yeah, give me that pee-pee." Anyway, that's Pretty Little Liars Original Sin. And if you want to know more about it, including, I have not said in my recaps review PP yet, but if you want to learn more about it, I am covering it with friend of the show and former guest Joe Lipsett, like we do, between his and my site. So if you're watching it, follow along with us. And don't hold it against me that I just said PP. Getting away from that, though, let's try to salvage this conversation. I want to hear about extreme horror.
There are butts and pee-pees in this one, but it's not funny. This movie's not funny at all.
It is now. And that was Megalomaniac, I think, or Megalomania or whatever. At one point, I was just kept saying pee-pee because it was getting such a reaction.
You made me do my wheeze.
You know. Oh my god.
It's like a puking dog.
Oh, fuck. Oh my god. 3 years, y'all.
Oh, what an incredible 3 years, I will say. Oh my god.
We've laughed. We've cried.
We've wheezed.
Laughed some more.
Screamed. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's got horny on main. Thanks. Yes, Tony. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us for 3 years and for sharing favorite moments and for the people in the chat. This live part, it's been a great 3 years, and we don't have any plans to stop it. So here's to 3 more years of incredible interviews and goofy ass jokes and cats being disruptive. And I don't hope for surprise spiders, but I like the stories that happen with surprise spiders. So, I don't want to put that on you, but I also so Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So, listeners, you have listened to us talk about our favorite moments of the show, whether sad, silly, or really moving. Let us know what your favorites were. I know some of you already have, but if there's more, or maybe a favorite episode, let us know via email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm Gaily Dreadful.
And don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And thank you so much to our patrons that are helping fund this little experiment. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you to Eric Bauer for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening and or watching. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time, keep squelching.